Storyboarding is out.
Ellen?
Yeah, I would just say from HopeLab's perspective, I mean, we are big believers in the power of technology to do good, and we are big believers in the power of play to be sort of a major key to unlocking positive behaviors in the lives of these kids. And so to the extent that we can create experiences that are play-based and compelling and really take the best of technology and use it as a motivating experience to get kids to do things that we want them to be doing in the real world. For example, being more active. We will feel, like we're on the right track. I mean, we really see this as, our goal fundamentally is to sort of ignite a lifetime of movement in kids and take advantage of what's here now, where they're at, and that's technology and play.
And I know, too, with with the work that Tom's doing, that in Robonica, that there is the opportunity to customize the play in such a way that it's not scripted. I guess you could probably have it scripted if you wanted, but the empowerment of the opportunity for children is to drive their own play experience.
Yeah, to answer the question, we found that with Robonica that people couldn't comprehend Robonica from a point of view to go to that website. But what they did seem to do, I'm talking about 11 to 14-year-olds here basically, but what they did do is we found that they found us through Facebook. And through Facebook, what they found was YouTube was really a powerful tool because it was able to show a multimedia. So I would say that, it's interesting because we're selling a physical product, but we couldn't get started unless we had like an internet type of a capability to get kids interested in it. And we found we couldn't drive them directly to our site, but the other really popular social media places like Facebook and YouTube was what drove them to show some interest. And then they all of a sudden came to our website and we attracted them for a purchase person.
If I could take a couple of quick questions. Yes, JP?
Just a follow-up on that. I mean, to what extent are you looking at these discrete virtual worlds as a place for this sort of mediated blend between, say, Facebook where itself that becomes a virtual world, not just as a future?
Our goal is to get them into our virtual world. So, but the path to get there is not a direct path, I guess is what I'm saying. And we experimented with everything. We're a very young company. We're in the early adapter, techno-savvy type mode. So we're trying to find that and listen to the consumer as much as we possibly can. Twitter doesn't work. A lot of these things don't work from a point of view of getting power and might. But all of a sudden we found that Facebook surfaced from a point of view that the kids were really interested in that, and that they found their parents were allowed them to go there and that type of stuff. And then that converted to YouTube.
Another question? Yes.
Can you discuss the actual cost of running a virtual world? For instance, it appears that the virtual world you're discussing requires multiple simultaneous users.
That's an excellent question, John. Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things I was going to ask, and we've talked about this offline, is who's making money and who isn't, who's investing at what dollar level. And one might argue, that as more and more virtual worlds enter the marketplace, the top 10 might have a harder time retaining the numbers they have, and they might see some erosion just because there's more product available. So there is some point where return on investment makes a difference. Do you sink $1.5 million into a virtual world, knowing you might only get 10,000 uniques a month? Where's your return on investment? I don't know if our panelists have anything to say about how they think about funding their product and how they look at return on investment.
I have one comment on that. I see this space, virtual worlds, especially kids, the success story in virtual worlds are primarily kid-based success stories. And I see it almost, I actually went to a virtual world conference a few years ago, and it was one of the first virtual world conferences. And what the feel of the conference was a lot like when the internet first started. And so it's very young in its development at this point, although there's been some really great properties that have been around for a while with what Jim's done in the past. But what we saw when the internet first launched was a land grab of a whole bunch of companies and a whole bunch of VC capital going toward this space with not a lot of integration into what is the economics of how this will work out. And those that were successful from an internet perspective and that created businesses from an internet perspective, from my perspective, were those that really integrated it into their business and extended their play value and their gameplay into it. It wasn't just a separate thing to check it off your list that you have a virtual world. It's literally part of your play value that you have with your products. And so That's the approach that we've taken, that it extends the play value of our products and keeps us relevant to the kids in the next generation.
So I can say one thing quickly about that. Numedian, which is the company that runs Yville, has actually had more income than investment, which is pretty remarkable for this space. We spent no money on marketing. We have 6 million registered users. That's one reason, by the way, why we have such a nice ratio between our actual income and our investment, is because we didn't spend 10x on marketing. The other thing I'll say is that Disney has already bought Club Penguin. So if you're making Club Penguin, it's unlikely you'll make $700 million, in case anyone here is thinking about it. And the last thing to say is that running real virtual worlds is not as simple as it looks. And figuring out how to blend, which I agree with everyone on this panel, what's going to happen, what we know, and if anyone's interested, there's actually an entire educational journal issue that just came out a week ago on Yville. And one of the things that they talk about is engagement and learning and whatever in this space. I think that what everyone's talking about here is that these kids naturally blend the online world with the real world. They do much more so than you do as adults. And so I think the future of the success of virtual worlds is going to be the accurate and appropriate blending of the real world with the virtual world, which is, I think the people on this panel are all doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to take one more question in the back there, and maybe we'll have time for another since I'm not getting the hook yet, but go right ahead.
Warren's eating a hot dog.
Yeah, have another hot dog.
My question is that virtual worlds are a place and in the virtual world, kids are typically, the typical model is that they're getting compensated for the activity, whether it's exercise, or they have a job. And so I'm wondering, how we're looking at this idea of commerce for kids, the idea of paying kids to play or exercise, as the case may be, where we're not doing that in our everyday lives. We typically pay kids for chores and things like that. And how the commercialization of virtual worlds, whether there's advertising or not, can impact other people.
That's a great question. The commercialization of virtual worlds, and what is it saying about how we're encouraging kids through these activities, or some of these virtual worlds? Yeah, I mean, some of them may argue, many sites, I can't speak for all of them, may say, well, we need some kind of metagame to drive the users through the experience, and that is one way of doing it, but it's not necessarily the only way. Anyone have any thoughts, Tom?
We use a ranking system, so the more you use the robot and the more you use the virtual world, the more power you get and the higher up you go in the rank. So we're not converting that to anything that's from a commerce perspective at this point. But that is an important element as it relates to what the internet is all about, is to show that you've improved and you've gone up the ladder.
Yeah, two things. Prestige is really what drives all of us. We're hierarchical animals. That's why we're all here. That's what drives everyone, including 12-year-olds. The other thing to say, just that you might find amusing, is that we've now in the last couple of months we are more and more involved in workforce issues, STEM issues, training issues for careers. Because the fact that kids in Yville actually do become CEOs, do become energy efficiency engineers, there is growing interest in figuring out how to link 12-year-olds who are really doing that in a virtual world to actual careers doing that. And we're currently building a career system.
Well, time for more food, I guess. Well, Jim, Dave, Ellen, and Tom, thank you very much. I think we'll wrap it up and get ready to change for our next presentation. If you have questions, feel free to engage our panelists individually.